Welcome to 24-Hour Sports. You are now here with Daryl Green. And I just want to open things up today by talking about the Dallas Cowboys loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars in overtime. My biggest takeaway from this game was that the Cowboys have to address the cornerback situation after losing Anthony Brown. Kelvin Joseph, he's just not the guy. They've targeted him all game. We seen Zay Jones, Marvin Jones, Christian Kirk. Everybody got to have their chance at Kelvin Joseph, and Trevor Lawrence was sending darts all day. He had a great passing game. Again, I told you, Trevor Lawrence is starting to look like we see why he was selected number one overall, and that defense just hasn't stepped up to the table. Also, they got the ball ran on them fairly well as well. Travis Etienne having some good rushes against that defense, and the interesting thing was Leighton Van Der Esch went out with a neck injury, and then we seen guys like Damone Clark, Anthony Barr. I spoke about those linebackers in past videos, and they have to get that addressed. They have to get that linebacker room addressed. Even if Leighton Van Der Esch was playing, it's still just not, it's not an ideal linebacker room. It's really not. And going into that game, I don't understand what Dak is seeing on some of these throws. The throw to Schultz when they were up 10, 27-17. Why would you even put your defense in a situation to be on the field and let Jacksonville get a crack at the red zone already on your side of the field because you throw a bad pass to Dalton Schultz and you just airmail it, and then it's just an interception. And then in overtime, another interception. We seen a deflection off of Noah Brown where I believe he could have caught in that ball, but he didn't, and it ended up in a pick six. They lost the game. And there are so many things we could point the finger at. There's a lot of things we can point the finger at, but I'm focused on defensively. Trevor Lawrence was able to pick them apart. In the first half, I thought they played defense fairly well. See, this is what's frustrating with me about Dallas. In the first half, when we seen the trajectory of that game, we would have believed for it to be a blowout. We come out in the second half, we do some of the same things, and we end up blowing out the Jaguars. But they didn't do that. It's like they let their foot off the pedal, and they just weren't the same team. Albeit, they took the game to overtime, they were able to continue to score, but it's just so much mistakes. And like we seen in another game that I'm going to get to, situational football. So many teams are bad at situational football, and that's what wins and loses football games. You can be a good team first, second, third quarter. You can front run, make all those plays, celebrate, do everything you want to. But when it comes to situational football in the clutch moments, how does your team look? How does your team perform? And I think the Cowboys are just not a good situational football team. We seen it last year. Let the clock run out when you have an opportunity to go score. It's just situational football. And that goes back to coaching. That goes back to Mike McCarthy, how they coach that football team, the mindset of those guys. And another key thing I want to speak to is how Dak Presscott has 11 interceptions on the season. He's missed 4 games. And he's tied for third in interceptions in the NFL. He's missed 4 games. He has 7 interceptions in the last 5 games. When are we going to stop giving Dak excuses? When are we? Because they ran for over 100 yards. The receivers were playing well. CD was playing well. Noah Brown was playing well. And he still couldn't get it done. So when are we going to start looking at maybe Dak isn't the guy? Although we're paying him all this money, maybe he's just not the guy. That's the realization that I'm coming to, because we're getting him in good situations. We're putting guys around him. We're giving him a pass rush, a defense to get him the ball back. We know what they create turnovers. They get interceptions. They get sacks. They force fumbles. And Dak isn't bringing it home. And figuratively, their season was ended by this loss, because now, even if they win or lose, it doesn't matter what they do at Philly next week, because they're not winning the division. And I'm afraid if I'm a Dallas fan, because my string of luck, my draw at the table, whichever team I get in the playoffs in this wild card game, I can lose to any team. And it's not to say that a lot of teams are better than we are, but I don't know what Dallas I'm going to get. Am I going to get the Minnesota Dallas? Or I'm going to get the Dallas that I've seen these past 2 weeks? Dallas versus the Texans. Dallas versus Jacksonville. Which version of Dallas am I getting? And a version of Dallas that I've gotten in these past 2 weeks, unsatisfactory. But I want to go into a few more games just to get my quick recap of things. And out of my slate, my picks and predictions, only 3 of my picks are wrong. So I'm going to go to those games and just see where I went wrong with my picks. The first game that I had that really surprised me, as we all know, I'm a Steelers fan. And luckily, we were able to beat the Panthers. I was really surprised by Mitchell Trubisky's performance. I don't have high hopes for Mitchell Trubisky. That's just what it is. Like I said, I believe Kenny Pickett can be our franchise guy, but with him being out, I just didn't think we had enough offensively. I seen us run the ball with Najee and Jalen Warren, something we've been trying to do the entire season, but some games is hit or miss. Some games we just can't get the run game going, and it's frustrating because that's what we lean our heads on. And like I say, defensively, it's a lot to be desired from me defensively for us. I like our pass rush. I'm not going to go as far as saying front seven because I believe the linebackers are something we need to improve. The secondary is also something we need to improve. But we won this game against a struggling Panthers team, a bad Panthers team. I'm not going to put too much into it. I don't know what our ceiling is for the rest of the season. But let's go into another game, an interesting game that I saw. The Giants versus the Commanders. Everybody wants to say that it was a missed PI call. They want to blame the refs. I'm not blaming the refs. I'm not, because the Commanders had all game to win this game. And you think just because they would have that's not even going to say they were going to score. That's not even to say they were going to score. And now, one play I will say that I wasn't a fan of, the illegal formation on Curtis Samuel. Now, come on. I mean, at the same time, Curtis Samuel, I know it's drilled in your head to make 100,000% sure that the refs know that you're on the line of scrimmage. But still, that seems like a nitpick call, because you don't want to make other calls. You don't want to make the pass interference call due to letting guys play football, but you're watching, you're eyed in, you're focused in on an illegal formation. So that just seems like the priorities are backwards to me, because how can you see a call like that, something so concise and precise, but you miss a blatant, obvious call that everyone across America could see in the pass interference on Curtis Samuel? So that just frustrated me a little bit. But like I said, Commanders had every chance to win this game. A guy that I spotted out, my defensive player of the game for the Giants, was Kayvon Thibodeau. Tackles for loss, pass rush, pressures. He got him a sack too. And I think just recently we've seen him coming on. Daniel Jones making some good throws. And a lot of people don't like Daniel Jones, but I'm in his corner. I think he can make some good throws. He doesn't have much to work with. So we got to look at that before we even just say he's not a good quarterback. Saquon played pretty decently. Buccaneers versus the Bengals. Like I said about the Buccaneers, I told everybody about the Bucs. I seen 17-3. I thought, okay, maybe you caught Joe Burrow on a bad day. You didn't catch Joe Burrow on a bad day. I don't know what is going on with that team, but it's just not their year. They're getting some of that Rams syndrome, a team that we're going to see play tonight against Green Bay, but they're getting some of that same syndrome, some of that post-success going into real bad non-success. And I just don't know what it is. Tom Brady, he's a little old, so it's going to be interesting to see how they attack the offseason, how they get this turned around. But it's a good win for the Bengals. The Bengals showed me that they're a resilient team. They can win. And right now, we have to be looking at them. Is this the best team in the AFC? Because the Chiefs struggled with the Texans. They really struggled. I thought Patrick Mahomes played well, and that was scary to me, because Patrick Mahomes played well and you still went into overtime. You still had a hard-fought game. They had some fumbles, but even then, that's the Texans, 112-1, and that's just a tough game. So I'm saying the Bengals, they're looking like right now they could be neck and neck with the Chiefs for the best team in the AFC. Another game that everybody watched, the Patriots versus the Raiders. Horrible call. Just take that game in overtime. We know what the Raiders are. Patriots, you have to know that you can win this game in overtime. The lateral, it's on the receiver that he threw that back. I would have just went down, because why would you throw it to Mac Jones at that, or throw it in his vicinity? And then Mac Jones just got stiff arm. He got his head through in the dirt by Chandler Jones. He went in and scored it, ended that game. But like I said, the Raiders have a high ceiling, low floor. And I thought we seen some of that ceiling. We seen Derek Carr. We seen those weapons a little bit. And that's what we saw out of that game. Also, one thing I want to know, Mac Jones, where are you? Where are you, Mac Jones? Because Ramondre Stevenson had a big, huge game, and you still couldn't get anything done. I think he went about 13 for 31, and that's just unacceptable. That's what I'm saying. We see these quarterbacks getting their run games going, and it's on you. You have a run game, so passing lanes are open. Guys are going to be open. Guys are going to be biting on play actions, and you're still not being able to be successful. That makes me question some of your quarterback traits. What are you as a quarterback? Another game that I really just want to look into, like I said, the Lions versus the Jets. The Lions make an interesting case to me that they can still make a playoff push. And it's going to be interesting to see with the Lions, the Jags, some of these good teams coming on. How can they make that playoff push? What are they going to do? And the Chargers, I seen them beating the Titans. You know, like I said, that's a struggling team. I like what I saw in that game. I seen that highlight pick by Roger McCreary where he threw it back into his teammate. That was a great interception. But, you know, they lost that game. And I want to end it off with the Eagles versus the Bears. The Eagles would fear me if I'm a team because they find a way to win. It's not always going to be pretty, but they winning. They always winning, even though it's not always pretty. Now, one thing I can say, I spoke about Jalen Hurts as a passer, and a lot of people didn't like what I had to say, but every time that Miles Sanders doesn't have a big game or Jalen Hurts just doesn't run wild on a team, we see him get up to 30 to 40 passing attempts. I just don't see the same Jalen Hurts. I've said that. And as an Eagles fan, let me know what you think of Jalen Hurts as a passer right now. Where would you put him? I wouldn't put him in that elite tier. I believe he's an elite player as far as his combination of running and passing, but I don't think he's an elite passer just yet. I seriously don't. And defensively, Justin Fields was able to run around, evade some pressure, make some throws, run the ball a bit. They put up 20 points, but the Eagles still won. So, you know, what is that? And I think the Eagles are going to come out here focused, determined. I think the Eagles are going to whip the Cowboys next week. The Cowboys is just, no, I'm not sold. And that's really my recap of Week 15. Everything I saw. If you have any questions or anything you want to talk about, just let me know. Drop down in the comments and we can talk about it. But thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.